Guys, welcome. And this is Winston Guy, Executive Director of Faith Friends Foundation. Hopefully, you're able to see me and hopefully, you're able to hear me. I'm a little under the weather, so I hope that you will forgive me for sniffling. And, um, when you're under the weather's change, you know, it can be a little bit frustrating. But I want to welcome you all to. Um, Giving Tuesday and our us trying to showcase what it is that we do as an organization. I want to welcome all everyone that's listening and watching our broadcast from Georgia. And if you're watching on Facebook and if you're watching on Lincoln or if you're watching on YouTube, I want to welcome you all to another year of that we talk about the organization and what we do here at Faith Friends Foundation. This, is has been a remarkable year for the organization, and there's been changes, highs and lows, and success and disappointments. But through it all, we feel and have felt that the organization has been making a mark on the communities that it serves and the people that rely on the foundation. So I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thanks to the individuals and the organizations and the companies and all of you who have said yes to Faith Friends Foundation and have opened up your wallets or your taking your feet and walked and ran and did everything in terms of helping the foundation in whatever form or capacity you can able to do. I want to make a special welcome and thank you to the organization folks that we call VES, Volunteer Executive Staff. And that's not a normal word that you will hear in the dictionary quite often. But we coined that phrase for VES. These are the people who have volunteered with the organization who are powerful people in their own right, leaders, leaders of nonprofits, leaders of corporations, leaders of churches, and leaders of social organizations, and individuals who are just leaders because they have the passion to serve and passion to help people. And these folks have taken out of their lives time to volunteer with Faith Friends Foundation. And they have volunteered without compensation and sometimes without enough of a thank you. So I want to say to them, VES, from the bottom of my heart, as the executive director of Faith Friends Foundation, I want to thank you for volunteering your service with this organization. I want to thank the people who are our supporters and people who have watched our videos, people who have tuned in to see what it is that this organization has been doing. So I want to tell you guys that you have been a mountain for this organization. And we have called on you many times to ask for your help. And today's no less than such a time. We're calling on you to help this organization in a time when we have faced enormous pressure and consequences. So we want to call on you, your virtue, your capacity for mercy, your love of people, your love of country and community. I'm here today not reading off of a script, but out of my heart, sitting in front of you without a script, without anything to refer back to, because I have been in the trenches trying to be and to make a difference in the lives of people. So, for you folks who have helped us on the way, what I say to you is do not be weary in well doing. And I know that sometimes it is difficult, even tempting, to say, forget this. But I want you to know that there are people that you, because of your help, this organization have been able to assist. So I want to take you back to one of the things that has been of consequence. Just a few weeks ago, we saw something that this hemisphere have not seen probably in over a century. A monumental, catastrophic hurricane came on shore like a beast in Jamaica, one of the country that we are part of, registered it as a nonprofit organization. So we have a lot of interest in that country. And so we saw a hurricane named Melissa coming on shore in Jamaica with catastrophic consequences, the likes of which our country will have not seen before. And I'm saying our country because you know that I'm part of that community. Born there, both parents are buried there. So I know a lot about Jamaica and I understand what has happened. The pictures that we've seen of what has happened in Jamaica, an hurricane, winds 150, close to 200 miles an hour, water, rain exceeding the capacity of Jamaica to deal with it. And so Jamaicans hunker down, deciding that to write it out, having never seen such a thing. And all throughout the south of Jamaica, we saw catastrophic consequences of this hurricane. Water rising up from the center of the earth. Jamaica is land, some of it made of limestone and rocks, and the water, so much the land could not hold it, and therefore it rose above the earth and swallowed houses, animals, and lives. So Jamaicans died in that hurricane, and not just died, but many of them lost everything. To lose what you don't have, it is something that is hard to explain. So Jamaicans, I talked to them today to say, as a member of your community, born there, went to school there, friends there, and still our organization remain in the country. We understand that you're going through something that you have never experienced before. And so I want to thank you for having the spirit of saying we will overcome and we will rebuild. And you have said that, and our organization have heard the call and the cry and the loud noise of a population that desires to live not in poverty, but to live a normal life. So what this hurricane did was to change the trajectory of the Jamaican people, to bring them back to a time of extreme poverty, destruction around the country. And it's not, say, all of Jamaica. We understand that certain parts of Jamaica was spared because of grace, because of mercy. The people were spared. Some were spared. So I want you, as our supporters and our friends on Facebook, on LinkedIn, and on YouTube who are watching this broadcast, to think about these individuals, families, children, whose houses have been submerged in water for weeks. And those that were the ancestors, those that were dead. For years, their bodies risen from the sepulchres and washed across the land. Burial spots removed and bodies lay bare. And so we see a monumental effort by the country, the people, from every walks of life, from strangers to friends, to family, to celebrities, trying to make a difference. But it is indeed incumbent upon us as a community to say, what is it that we can do for our people, for the entire Jamaican population? And I saw today, as I sit here and thinking about my time in that place, a life lived there, brought up by a woman of enormous strength, a woman who saw her children as the future of the country and never stopped working to build a life for us. And so I'm here as the executive director of this foundation in the name of that woman, because for me, all that I am is about who she was, the country that she lived in, and the country she bore me in. And so I beg you, our supporters, our volunteers, our partners, to think about not just Jamaican people, but the world and what we have endured, the people in Georgia, in the United States. We have worked with communities. Today I spoke with the principal of one of the schools that we worked with, and she wished us well. And so there are people in Georgia and in the United States, all across the United States, that understand what it is that we are about and what it is that we're trying to do. But it is not just what we say as a people, but it's what we do to help individuals who need our help. So I'm asking you today, with everything that I have, we are just clay. And so we're being asked God to mold us into what we want to become. So we want to become good stewards of the land that was given to us, that was by our parents and foreparents, and the people who live within it. So I've spoken to you guys before, and I beg you guys today to go to our website, facefriendsfoundation.com, and to volunteer and to help with our effort in trying to make a difference in the organization and make a difference in in not just the organization, but in the lives of people. And so we beg of you to go and open up your wallet and do something for the people that we are looking at, not just in Jamaica, but in Georgia and throughout the United States and across the world, because there are people that are in need regardless of where we are and what we do. So, this is Giving Tuesday, and Giving Tuesday, as you know, and I want to thank, I see Keisha, one of our representatives, coming on board, and she's watching what we're discussing. Hopefully she can come in and give you, just a little bit of what is happening in Jamaica. But as I said, right now, I want you guys to open up your wallet and you're thinking, it's straightforward. But I'm being straight with you because time is of the essence. Lives hangs in the balance. And so people in some places are near death. And we may see someone looking strong as if they can cope, but deep down they need food, they need water, they need soap, they need things to survive. And if you don't be careful, what will happen is things start to happen. Disease from drinking or using or just messing with water that's been contaminated with the dead and all of that stuff. This is an emergency, folks. It is easy to think that people can walk away and recover, but it is not that easy. If it was easy, Jamaicans would be much further on than they are today. So, you know, I want you to give a hand to Face Friends Foundation. And so some of you may just be coming on board and knowing who Face Friends Foundation is, or what Face Friends Foundation, how did it begin, and what happened, who created it, and why. So throughout the years, I've told you why Face Friends Foundation was created and why. I mean, how. And as I told you before, it was as a result of what we saw during the pandemic. And we saw poverty that we did not know existed, and that folks were living from hand to mouth. So that was the reason why we started this foundation for Jamaica, for Georgia, for Sugar Hill. And my report is that it's not been easy, as you know, to start an organization, to build it. And we started from nothing as an organization, a few people together deciding that we're going to make a difference in the lives of Jamaicans and Georgians. And we set up the organization as a not legal nonprofit here in Georgia. We requested the IRS to give us 501c3 nonprofit status, which they did. And we called our first meeting of the board of directors. And the board elected me president of the board. And so ever since then, we've been waging a great war on poverty, on health and educational disparities that are in our communities. The disparity lingers in the lives of children, unable to feed and have enough food, unable to have enough money, unable to have the economic status that they hope for as kids and as adults. And so, not just Jamaicans, but Americans have lived this life, but Jamaicans in particular, because I have lived it with them, understanding what they have lived, knowing what it was, what it is. Endemic. And so when we talk about endemic poverty, we're talking about a situation where, not because of what the people have done, but because of circumstances beyond their control. I talked about myself growing up in Jamaica in poverty, living a life of poverty, but not understanding that it was poverty, not knowing it was poverty as a child. We understood that we weren't living the best of lives in terms of economic status, but we were living the best of life in terms of how we felt about ourselves. We were little as a country, but we were Talawa. We understand that we had notable people to think about as our leaders. But we knew that we lived a life of poverty. And my parents knew that and never showed us that, well, you can't survive. So, I want you guys to let me know if you can see it within the complexity of your life, the need and the urgency of what it is that is affecting you, and what it is that you must do, the urgency of now. And so the life that I lived, seeing the house that we lived in, a poor place, a little two-bedroom place, and our parents being strong and mighty. And as I said before, we want to not just think about what it is to be loving and respectful of a nation, but to how we move from poverty to economic status, indeed, wealth. And so, right now, what is our purpose? Our purpose is to be the Good Samaritan. I've spoken about it all the time because indeed it is what we are asked to do, to be the Good Samaritan. Because without that, we're living for ourselves. And if living for ourselves is all that matters, then we don't respect our fellow man. So the scripture talk about the Good Samaritan and passing the beggar on the side of the road. And it is that life when the Good Samaritan saw several people coming by and looking at the beggar. Today, we're asking for help. It is not saying that we are beggars, but it's saying that there are people that are in need of wanting for help. So we talk about the Good Samaritan who saw the man with the money, with the car, the house, and each person passed the beggar by. Not food, not water, not clothes, not shelter. And so the life of the beggar remained where it was, condemned to live in poverty until the Good Samaritan came along and said, this man, you passed him day and night, you've said nothing, you've done nothing. What you done unto this man, you do it unto me. So what we're saying today is what you have done to your fellow man, you're doing unto not just God, but ourselves. And so we want to respect the beggar and the people who are living and suffering in poverty, and we want to be able to help. I beg of you today, go to our website and donate to Face Friends Foundation and give us a hand with this work, this great work that we're called to do, not as preachers, not as clergy, but as members of the society that we live in. And so that's what we're called to do. And it is this life, it is nothing that we are going to take back to the great beyond. Everything that we have today in this life, the house, the land, the money, the clothes, the cars, the shoes, everything in one sudden and dramatic moment will not be ours at some point in our lives. We are just dust, part of the universe, infinite and never ending. And so, what is there that we know is true? We know that the people who are our friends, our neighbors, we know that they are real and would love your help. I'm seeing Keisha on board on deck. And I don't know if she wants to show me her screen. If she does, I'll bring her on the screen. Or if she wants to speak, I'll open up her mic and bring her on the screen without her. But so show me that, and I'll bring you on the screen, Keisha. I appreciate that. Anyone who has a link to be able to speak, you can come on and tell me and tell you our people what it is that you've been doing or have done. I beg you to do that because some of you are great ambassadors of the foundation, speaking of what it is that the organization is about. We just developed the ambassadors program. And the ambassadors program is something where you, our supporters, our donors, our volunteers can join the ambassadors program. And with the ambassadors program, you can represent Faith Friends Foundation to an organization, to a community, to young people, to church, to youth, to whatever. And to say that you have respect for this organization, and if I have respect for the organization, can you join me and help this organization? So I beg of you, if you want to join the ambassadors program, go to faithfriendsfoundation.com and request to join the ambassadors program. And we have the Instacart program. And that is something where we are able to help people immediately with food and necessities. And we're trying to expand that program to help many, many more people. And so the Instacart program, the ambassadors program, all of that is part of what this organization is doing. And, I respect all of you who tuned in today. And hopefully we have some people that can come on in before 2:00 and discuss with you what it is that they have been doing with this foundation. So, I talked to you about what it is like to grow up in poverty. And there are numerous situations, as a child growing up that I reflect on. And many of you understand what that is because you've also lived it, not just in Jamaica, but here in the United States, the poverty of growing up poor. I've said before that when I remember about the abode, the accommodation that I lived in, my parents making do of a kitchen that was built on dirt floor. I think about them, I think about her, and I think about my dad, but I think about the poverty and accepting it as a way of life. If you think about it, my mom never drove a vehicle, never drove a car, never understood what it meant to drive a vehicle, would never even think of it. It is that Asian to think that she could drive a vehicle, even at the point when everybody was driving vehicle in her later years. But it is the way it's it's always been. And now we have people who have grown up, some people out of poverty, and have had the things that our parents weren't able to do. But when we think about the rushing water of Hurricane Melissa, destroying the things, the lives, the places that Jamaicans are accustomed to, of knowing. If you think about what that must feel like to know that half or three-quarters of what you knew to be reality is buried underwater. Houses submerged, businesses covered in water, dirt, everything. And so, what of the future? What of children that are needing the response from us? So, there are children, who are needing school supplies. We've been working on that as a foundation. What about clothes? We've also been working on that, tools to recover. We've been working with organizations like Home Depot, Walmart, and the places like that. One of the missions that we have coming up is a trip to Jamaica. We want to be able to announce that, but we are going there to be able to present some of the things that we have. But we need some more supply. We need the things that are going to make a difference in the lives of people. And I beg of you to help us to provide that to the people of Jamaica. And let's talk about just here in Georgia. We talked about just recently about the young woman who was in need of food and all of that necessity of life. Because when you are a mom, your responsibility is to your kids, to your children. And so that young lady, she called us and said she was in need. Can you help? And so what we did, we thought about what we must do. And we put a word out for help. And a good Samaritan, a woman, came to our rescue, like the good Samaritan. She said, "What is it that you require of me?" She said it almost in those simple terms, almost in those words. What is it that you require of me? Never met this lady before, never spoken to her before. It was as if an angel had appeared. And I said, there's a woman who called me who is needing food. Her family is suffering. And this angel said, tell me what it is that you want us or me to do. So I called the lady back and I said, what is it that you would like? And she said, food, and I want it as quickly as possible. We are in need of food. And so I relayed that message back to the lady, and she said, send me a list. And so we created a list that night. It was dark, no way to get a food, but we created a list of food, of necessities, of what it is that you need to survive. And we sent the lady, the Good Samaritan, a list. And in about 20 minutes, she sent word back. I have Instacarted supplies, food, and everything that this family needed. Imagine the joy for me to be able to go back and report to the lady that on its way as food for you and your family. And in about 30 to 40 minutes, maybe an hour, this lady sent back to me saying that at her door is all the food she needs. What a great example of a woman in her, whatever age she's at, whatever time she's in her life, she's able to provide something for a family she have never met, people she will never know. And I I called her the next day, not called her, but I emailed her or texted her, something like that. And I said to her, what is it that made you decide to do that? I've never met myself or this person. And she said, it was because that God has been good to me for all my life, all my life. And now that I've retired, she said, I want to think that I should be able to give back to somebody, to the people that have made my life possible. And she said that was the reason why she wanted to give back. So today, as we're nearing the end of our broadcast, and let me see, if I'm just gonna, don't worry about the phone call. Somebody's calling me, but as I was saying that, you know, I don't know if Keisha, she's there, but she hasn't indicated that she want to come on. So that'd be great if she could indicate that by blocking her or unmuting her voice, and I'll be able to put her on. And she lives in Jamaica. Okay, great. So let me see. Let me put add her to the stage. Keisha, I'm glad you came on. I'm thank you for know you live you are in Jamaica, and the audience is right here. Tell us and save me from all my talking. What is happening in Jamaica, and give us a synopsis of what has happened and how we can help.
Hi, good day, everyone. Well, it's really bad in some parts, in West
Can we
Virginia.
get your voice up a little bit, Keisha? Hopefully, it's just a little bit
Can you hear
clearer.
me clearly?
Yes, a little better now. Great, I appreciate that.
Okay. Yes, I was saying that it's really bad in some parts, Westmoreland, Trelawney, parts of St. Anne, Mandeville. It's like a bomb dropped in some places. And I know we've been getting help from all over different countries and within Jamaica, but it's gonna take a lot more and a lot longer for us, to you know it's hard. It's unexplainable, what I'm seeing. I went down there once with my work crew to do a little to give back some, and
Yes,
it's gonna take a lot more giving continuously to get these people, um
yes.
stable of sort. It's
So, so Keisha, tell us a little bit about Jamaica and give people an idea about the type of place it is and the type of how people are able to survive even after something like that.
it's mostly for the most part locally. Persons are giving back, like I said, from my job, we went down there 2 weeks ago to give back, and a lot of local organizations, just regular joes, going down to help people.
Right,
It's giving back through charity. So that's what
right,
has been helping a lot of people on the ground currently. There are some persons who are cut off completely from other communities, so
exactly.
they have no water. Some of them, no, definitely no light, and communication is very sketchy. So it's hard. There's words can't explain how difficult it's going to be to rebuild, especially for the kids, the elders and stuff like that. So it's going to take a long time for us to go back to where they were before the storm.
Back
If
to go
ever,
back
if
to even a place. Yes, and
yes,
I
if
know.
ever.
So it is very, very tough. And so what would you say to somebody who's trying to think about how they can help the organization or help the not just the foundation, but the people what is it that is most in need right now besides money? Because we know money is always going to be needing, but how can they help?
Food. Food is essential. They need food, medicine, um,
Medicine.
um, medicine. Especially for the elders. Some need adult diapers and stuff like that for babies. Same
Yes.
thing. Things, the simple things that you use on an everyday basis. Just think of yourself in that position. What would you need? And it's easy for you to
Yes.
come up with what they need. So food. Some persons, a lot of persons need clothing because they've lost everything. It blew away, and stuff like that. So food, clothing, to get them going, and like storage containers for water, because they have an issue with the water
Absolutely.
there, and it's contaminated and stuff. And they're speaking about leprosy, lesser pyrosis going on, and anything can happen. So you have to be
Right.
make sure that the water that
We
they
keep
have
that down.
is stored properly.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So
Exactly.
I guess
And
like basic food items including sanitary products.
yes. So, Keisha, she's a woman of, the respect that she has within this organization. She has helped us with our projects. She has volunteered with the foundation in Jamaica. Enormous work that she has done with the rest of the team in Jamaica. So we want to thank her. Today was at last minute. I said, Keisha, I want you to come on and talk about what's happening in Jamaica. I've been there now and living the consequences of an hurricane that no one expected or could have even anticipate, the consequence of which we know will continue for probably decades to come. It will not be an early return to normal life, and a generation will pass. So, I want to thank Keisha. Please, anything that that you guys can do. She said that for the elderly, if you are elderly, all everything you have is gone. We need like diapers, and when I'm talking about adult diapers, for children we need everything as well. We know that it is tempting to use water that's contaminated, because what else are you going to use if it's contaminated? You'll cut off. And we're not saying that the country is destroyed entirely, because there's Kingston, there's parts of many other country that has survived and has escaped, but we cannot see this in isolation. This is a catastrophe of monumental proportion, that the likes of which many in Jamaica who have lived there for 40, 50, 60, 70 years could not have prepared for. To be able to see water rising even after the hurricane, constantly covering roofs, and just destroying animals, pets, goats, all that's underwater. So if anyone else want to jump in, and Keisha, if you want to say more, or let me know, but because I like to hear firsthand that what it is that we could help with. As you know, we worked on the Joyce Eccleston um, uh, uh, supplies, and we together, you and the rest of the team there, we worked on that. We are working on all of that, trying to bring more resources to Jamaica. And so, if anything you want to talk about, Keisha, the floor is yours, because as I said to my team here, I've been speaking for 4 years, and I'd love for you guys, for you, Keisha, to speak. If you want to continue, I'm happy to um, allow that you continue and speak for the organization, having volunteered with us and still do. And hopefully somebody else can come on before we get to the end, and tell us what it is that they have done. What are they doing right now in terms of helping us in Georgia, in Jamaica. We want to thank some leaders in the organization. We just had on some leaders like Ron Ely, a very good um, person in the organization, has assisted us in recruiting and all of that. We appreciate him, and he's working in nonstop. We want to thank his team of volunteer managers. They have worked nonstop. We want to thank the fundraising and development team, led by Tasha. And she's working this morning. She provided some information for the ambassadors program, and we want to thank the programs manager Roselle and her team, and they've been working yeoman's work in doing that. Roselle and her team, thank you very much. We want to thank the communication folks like Alyssa, who've been communicating and figuring out how we meet the moment, how we describe the moment, how we related to what's happening. Appreciate you, Alyssa. We want to thank Renee and what she has done. We want to thank Uchenna, who's in our partnership department, who's trying to work with people abroad. And so we want to thank Renee as well. Let me mute your mic, Keisha, for a minute. And so we want to thank, um, you know, everyone for being a part of this organization, the massive work that we have done, and it doesn't go unnoticed, and now will not go unmentioned. We want to thank Joyce, who is she's in our international department. Joyce, we want our long discussions. We appreciate you as well. I'm trying to make sure that we don't leave out. I mentioned the leaders and the teams. I want to thank Shakaya and her team. She has been working nonstop as well to aid the organization in executive services. Shakaya, we thank you. We want to thank our recent Dr. Manali for giving us some time in the organization. Just a myriad of folks who have helped us to be able to bring to light what's going on, and to try to develop this organization. I feel, as I said, as we get to the end, I feel so proud to lead an organization, and sometimes, sometimes it's not easy, when the body and sometimes the mind, would say, well, you've worked, put down your sword and your shield, and it's time. But when you know that it is not yours. And so even the song, the battle is not yours, it's the Lord's. And so this battle that we fight of poverty, it is a battle that is not something that we can win just because of our strength, but it's because of community, it is because of togetherness, it is because of what we believe in. It is not about politics, it is not about who we are. It's about us working as a team of friends, of neighbors. So the song says the battle is not yours, it's the Lord's. And so I want to tell you, in your personal circumstances, the suffering that you may be going through, anyone that is suffering right now, I understand. If you're going through loss of mobility, if you're going through loss of a job, if you're going through circumstances like you just like a young lady says, she just went in for a mammogram or something to do with her a regular check and came out with stage 4 cancer, a regular checkup without no symptoms, and came out of the doctor's office battling stage 4 cancer. If you feel that your marriage and all of that, you're struggling, if you've just been through a hurricane where your life is turned upside down, literally, hanging on by a thread, if your bank account is empty, if your friends have walked away from you and have turned their backs on you, if your family is lost, if you lost a spouse in death, and you're thinking, what are my options? Can I survive your marriage and your family, your job, your finance, your business? And so you are in Jamaica or you're in the heat right here, wherever you at, and you're thinking, can I be of help when myself is in need? And that's the question we are asked to ponder and to think about. But understand that because we are in need, the great frailty of our lives, and it is what we're asked to do that will make us survive and thrive. Because the great power of God is there looking at the little things. And so the Good Samaritan, remember, the Good Samaritan said, take care of this man. And it's not just the fact that he asked you to take care of this man. He said, I'm on my way to a place, but when I come back, I will repay you 3 times and 4 times what you have done. Sometimes we are in that fourth moment, the doubling of what we have done. And it's because of that moment that we're going to be able to meet this moment and survive and thrive. I know that struggle is not easy to struggle. It is not easy to be in want. It's not. And as Keisha talked about, when she spoke about the people that she has seen, she said it in no uncertain term. What is happening is beyond comprehension in some area. So what you feel in your own personal lives, feel sometimes that is beyond our comprehension, because you're in pain, physical and emotional pain. I saw this gentleman the other day on social media, and his wife said, I wake him up, I tap him to make sure that he doesn't give up. And he said, I want to give up because the pain is unbearable, the struggle is almost hard to comprehend for me to. And she says, do not give up your family. Your children is depending on you surviving. Ladies and gentlemen, friends of Faith Friends Foundation and all of you, go to our website, donate, don't matter how big or small it is, donate to the foundation, become a member, join the foundation, become an ambassador, join the ambassadors program. What about the Instacart program? Help individuals who are in need of food, necessities. What about what's happening in Jamaica? What about the old man, the elderly, the old lady? What about hospitals that has been destroyed in Portland, in Westmoreland, and all of that? What about the dirt and the mud and the sludge that sits on the floor right now? What about the roof that has been destroyed? What about the power that is down? We are fortunate, even within our own suffering, we're still fortunate that life is still our greatest strength. And we're able to make a move and to change other people's lives. So those 4 or 5 things that I've mentioned to you, students here in Georgia who needs back to school supplies and food, and children in Jamaica who need supplies as well, all of that stuff. That's what this foundation is about. To not ignore the suffering, but to look it straight in the eye and to say that we are not comfortable with suffering and poverty. We're not saying it's inevitable or it's your destiny. We're saying, with your help, we can overcome and we can make this a better place for the people. You know, I decided not to do any other music or anything like that because I want to center your minds around what it is that we're asked to do today on Giving Tuesday. Sure, I wanted to bring you guys all of the pumps and everything that you can see what the organization is doing. But as I told my people today, sometimes we have to be the one who takes the ball at the end of the game. You know, like Michael Jordan, at the end of a game, when everything is on the line, when the shot clock says 25 or 24 seconds, that's the shot clock. And so we're down to 24 seconds. Lives are on the line, places are on the line. And Michael Jordan says, give me the ball. There are consequences of losing the game. There are consequences for your teammates. There are consequences for the fans. And so they say Michael Jordan will take the ball because his veins has ice. So our job right now is to say, I want the ball. Give me the ball because I'm going to make the shot. And even if I don't make the shot, I definitely tried. That's what it is we're asked to do today, to make the shot, even if we miss. So Michael Jordan has the ball, 24 seconds The game is tied or they're down by 1 point. Michael Jordan is coming down the lane. Everybody is watching. Right now, we're all watching what you will do in this moment of crisis, in this moment that's beyond comprehension. And so it falls on you, in the sound of my voice, listening, to make the shot. And you see everybody, your detractors, your supporters, and everybody, you can hear them one way or the other. You're mid-court and you feel pain in your body. You feel struggle of life. You've been doing it all, and now you're required to make the last shot. And so we're at the point. We're up to the line. We need 3 points to win the game. Michael Jordan has the ball. You have the ball. Our supporters, our donors, our friends. And so you now will make the shot. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you.